Hello, how's it going?
Going good. It's so funny because we just talked for an hour. I was just on your show, and I absolutely love talking to you. So I'm excited to have you in the hot seat and talk to you. So thank
It's
you for coming on.
it's so funny how I'm all about authenticity, and I just started that show with the most inauthentic question ever because I've just been speaking to you for an hour. I'm just so used to it.
It's funny because I actually had that knowledge bomb dropped on me. I had Laura McGowan on the show,
Uh,
and we had been talking for like 20 minutes, and I was like, "How are you?" She's like, "I just talked to you."
yeah, 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 yeah,
Talked for 20 minutes. I was like, "Oh, you're right."
yeah. Laura's great. Laura's great.
Glad to have you on my show. So, um, you have your own podcast, and you start every episode by saying, "I am not an alcoholic, and I used to be anonymous." And I love that you do that. So, what makes you say that? What makes you lead into every episode with that statement?
Well, I'd love to come up with some beautiful moral and ethical reason for that. Well, I would be lying. I don't like lying. So I created the needy. I create the truth about alcohol used to be called the needy helper, right? So I quit drinking somewhere around 2009, something like that, and I quit drinking by changing my paradigm, my worldview around the way we perceive alcohol. Okay, so I was a guy like most who perceived alcohol to be normal and pleasurable, and not a little bit normal and pleasurable, but a lot normal and a very pleasurable, right? So I learned to see that I had been brainwashed to think that way all my life, and I thought to myself, well, if I brainwash myself to think a different way, then maybe I wouldn't want to drink. So I did. I brainwashed myself to believe that alcohol offers me no value. Okay, and once I realised that it offered me no value, and we talked a little bit earlier on about the nightclub incident, didn't we, on our previous podcast? Is a good example. Once I realised it offered me no value, my desire went away. And once my desire went away, I seriously, I've never craved alcohol since 2009, since I made that leap. And then immediately after I'd realised that I'd been hooked by this illusion that alcohol provided you with value, I felt an incredible desperation to help save everyone around me who was still drinking. I didn't know how to do that. I just started writing about my personal experience. I needed a name. I was around the kitchen table with my in-laws who know nothing about computers. They don't even own one. And they were like, well, people type in this thing Google, right? And I'm like, yeah. So what are they going to type in if they need help? And I'm like, well, need help. So that is how I got my brand name. And I've been writing blog posts and stuff on the Needy Helper and doing coaching with people and creating training courses, but then throwing them away if somebody didn't quit because I was worried it wasn't working. And then very recently, I joined the Seth Godin marketing seminar course. And a lot of things changed for me because people who are in this industry, in as much as people who have quit drinking alcohol and now want to help other people, there's a taboo around turning that into a business. Let's just be honest about that, right?
Yeah.
Because the culture, especially in America, is Alcoholics Anonymous driven, and Alcohol Anonymous is free. So if someone comes along and says, well, I want to do the same thing AA does, but I want to charge you for it, unless you're rich and you go to all these really expensive retreats, you feel like someone's a snake oil salesman, right? So, but we need to get over that. And the reason we need to get over that is if we, you, me, Laura McGowan, Holly Whitaker, Laura Silverman, if we can become the greatest marketers that we could become whilst continuing our moral and ethical message and allowing trust to build with our community, then we can reach more people and save more lives as better marketers than we can who are terrible marketers. And I know that because I deep down in my gut believe I have the ability to really help people quit alcohol. But because I'm such a crap marketer, I can't even get people to know I exist. So how am I going to change people's lives? Seth Godin did a lot of work on the marketing seminar. It was $450. Anybody in business or life should take it. It's a great course, best I've ever done. And he gets you to see that where do you stand in your niche, in your market. And I looked at my market. So I looked at the Holly Whitakers of the world, the Laura McCowans, Alcoholics Anonymous, Hello Sunday Morning, the Australian forum, Soberistas, the UK forum. So I looked at all these, and I said I did an XY axis, and on one axis I said people either quit drinking alcohol or they moderate, and on the other axis I said people believe it's a brain disease or they don't. And I mapped out where these people were on that axis. And for me, there was a very clear gap in the market for people who didn't think it was a brain disease and they wanted to quit. So a good example is Hello Sunday Morning, the Australian company who just had a £500,000 grant from Google to help people quit alcohol, who have like close to 500,000 members on their forum. They are not interested in if you quit or not. They will help you to moderate, right?
The whole goal is to actually teach you to moderate alcohol consumption.
Or quit, whatever you want. But they're not hard and fast. But they don't think it's a brain disease. Yeah, Alcoholics Anonymous think it's a brain disease, and they want you to quit. The truth about alcohol, we don't think it's a brain disease, okay, and we want you to quit, okay. So that is our niche. So I now, through confidence of Seth Godin, am more than happy with my little 10 people. Whereas before I wanted to change the world. I now know that I will change the world by changing the lives of these 10 people who will go out there and change the lives of another 10, another 10, another 10. And I'm okay with that now. So it was really a catch net for, like, if you went to Alcoholics Anonymous and you didn't like it, and let's be honest, there are millions of people who do and millions of people who don't, then what are you going to do if you go to AA and you don't want to be anonymous? You don't want to feel like you're going to suffer for the rest of your life. You don't want to feel that you're one drink away from drinking again. You don't want to be labeled an alcoholic. Where are you going to go? Well, you come to the truth about alcohol. So that message is, we are not alcoholics. Okay, what does that mean? I believe there is a spectrum of alcoholism, just one spectrum. There's not 2, 3, or 4. And at one end of it, you got Auntie Dot, who likes to have a drink at Christmas with a family and no more. And then at the other end, you got the rip-roaring drunk who comes into your pub, he's pissed himself, and he's bothering you, and he wants your money so he can buy some vodka and go under a bridge and drink it somewhere. And then me and you used to be on there somewhere. And the only difference between Dot and the guy who pisses himself, he drinks more than Dot. The same poison goes into the same bloodstream. The same ideological fantasy that alcohol is normal and pleasurable is driven into the skull of everybody by the way the world works, right? So we're not alcoholics. We're just all basically people who drink a powerful poison. We're all the same. And the anonymous part, what good does it do for anybody to be anonymous about this thing? So I have a very, very controversial opinion which will drive people away from me. And like I said, that's cool because I'm more of a niche, come and join me if you believe me thing.
I like controversial. Actually, that excites me.
Okay, so we've got Auntie Dot at one end and we've got the guy who pisses himself at the other end. Let's call this guy Lee, right? So we've got Auntie Dot and Lee. Lee is doing more good for the sobriety industry than Auntie Dot. Lee is showing people who believe that alcohol is normal and pleasurable, he's showing them every time he pops up in your face, he's clicking something that doesn't exist in your mind that, hang on, this might not be the right thing to do. Like, drinking a powerful poison that makes me puke and shit blood might not be right. Because this guy, look at him, right? Now, if my children see him, or my children see Auntie Dot, who are my children more likely want to follow given the advertising and marketing campaigns that are going to bombard my children with messages about alcohol. They're going to want to be anti-dot, because to be anti-dot means that the world is enabling them to drink. And if the world enables them to drink, it means they will not be ostracized from their tribe. They will not be alone. They will not be isolated. And all the things we were talking about earlier on about anxiety, depression and stuff in our other podcast episode, and all the great work you do, a hell of a lot of that shit comes from people when they were teenagers. They were given a choice. They were given a choice to be who they are. I'm tapping my chest here because I don't know how else to explain it. To be who you are, or be the way the world wants you to be. And millions, billions of us sold our souls to the devil. We said, I cannot be who I really am. Because if I am who I really am, nobody will love me. So I'm going to play by these rules, even though I don't like the game. I'm going to drink this shit I don't like. I'm going to take drugs and smoke pot when it makes me feel awful. I'm going to have these conversations with these people. I'm going to have sex with this guy just because it's cool. I'm not going to wear a condom because it's uncool to wear one, right? And we follow this road down the line. And all of a sudden, we're 14, 15, 16, 17. Before you know it, you're 40. You join in Truth About Alcohol. And you're starting to realize how to think, and that you can make different choices, and that decision to be anonymous and to just follow the lead, all of a sudden you forget that you even made that choice in the beginning. You forget it. You start believing that alcohol tastes fantastic. You start believing that it increases your social experiences. You start believing that it gives you courage. You start believing that having a loss of inhibitions is a good thing. All these lies you believe because you had to believe them, because if you didn't, nobody would want to be a friend. But now you really believe them, and now you've got a problem because now you're addicted, right? So at the Truth About Alcohol, we say we will not be anonymous. Because if we're anonymous, our children will never know that it's cool to not drink. They will not know that there's a different way of being. They will not know in their teenage years, okay, because they have got no role models, that it's okay to be who you are. It's okay to suffer. And yes, your friends might not really like you, and that is going to be really tough, but you're not even going to have any of them as your friends anyway as you grow older, because they're not really your type. You wouldn't even be worrying about these things. So being anonymous is a bad thing in our eyes at the Truth About Alcohol. So we help people to gain that confidence through my community forum Strive, to use an online resource to like kind of grow their confidence, so they can then go to meetups or live experiences where they can actually learn to flex those muscles and really be who they are. Because to me, it's all about happiness, Allison, right? If by giving up drinking alcohol you're unhappy, don't give up. Like you got to be happy. So to me, in my like uneducated worldview of things, people are happy when they're being their authentic self, because they attract people who they should be attracting, and they get rid of people who they shouldn't have around them. But if you're drinking and you're fake and you don't know who you are, then all the people who are around you because they think you're something you're not. Mm-hmm.
And even if at the time, because I didn't realize drinking was a problem for me for at least a decade, even though there were times when I was like, it seemed like a solution for me because it allowed me that escape. And it's a very alluring track to get into, and it's a very hard track to get out. And I think when we that that does help to change the narrative that we experience culturally. Like, you and I are both, in the wellness world. You talk about alcohol, I talk about anxiety, and I can't tell you how many, blogs I follow and people I follow that just like love posting wine as a solution to their problems, and it blows my mind. And it's, it's a narrative that we have to change. So I really think it's so powerful to say I will not be anonymous, because I think it empowers you to stay committed to that experience.
I've thought about this long and hard. I'm an effective altruist by nature anyway, so I'm always trying to figure out how I can do the most good in the world. And I know there's an argument that by focusing on alcohol, I might not be doing the most good in the world, because I could be helping people who are suffering from malaria. I get that, but I'm working with the effective altruism movement right now to increase awareness around alcohol, because I think the damage that it's doing is underrated and underspoken. So I've thought about this a lot, and the way that I choose to attack this is, because I thought to myself, well, do I go to schools? Do I go to schools and teach kids this kind of stuff? That's one thing I thought about, because I'm trying to get to the root cause of this. But here's what I come up with, right? So people drink for a variety of different reasons. People drink because of trauma-related issues. People drink, as you just said, because it's a release to escape from something. And I think when I did a podcast recently, I can't remember who it was, I apologize. And they asked me, I think it might have been Karla and Maree actually, asked me, why did you drink then? What was you trying to run away from? And I was like, nothing. I drank because everybody else drank. People like, Seth Godin says this, people like me do things like this, right? People like me drink alcohol. Okay? So what I want to do is I want to attack this. If you suffered from trauma when you were younger, but there wasn't this machine, this societal conditioning powerhouse of a machine that was programming you to believe that alcohol was normal and pleasurable. If that didn't exist and you were going through something, you wouldn't turn to alcohol. You can only turn to alcohol because it's normal and pleasurable. Now, why do I stick my balls on a platter and say that? Because not as many of you are turning to heroin. And you don't turn to heroin because society's view of a heroin addict and their vision of it is up there, or even worse than Lee, the guy who pisses himself, who's drinking alcohol out of a bottle. So we look at that and we say, no, society says that heroin is really, really bad. But society says alcohol is fucking ace. So now I have a problem that I need to hide from. Like, it is a classic. It's a classic one. So people come to me and say, do you know what? I drink alcohol because I love the buzz. I love the buzz. Well, I used to take speed. And I can tell you something. The buzz that I used to get from speed was far better than any buzz I got from alcohol. Take some speed. If you want a buzz, take some speed. I've been told, but I don't know, that if you just want to forget shit, take some heroin. It's a much better experience than just blacking out with alcohol. But when you ask people that, they'll just look at you like you're fucking stupid. Because it breaks these rules that are taboo. But alcohol isn't taboo. So we're coming at that and saying that's where we need to attack this. So influenced very heavily by Melanie Joy's work she does in the vegan community. Okay, I read a book of hers called, I always butcher this title, Why We Don't Eat Dogs, Kill Cows and Wear Sheep or something. I don't know, I butchered it, but it's a really important book. I read it and she was talking about why people eat meat. How is it possible that a teenager can turn around and answer the only question adults know how to ask kids? What do you want to do when you grow up? I want to be a vet. Why do you want to be a vet? Because I love animals and I want to help reduce suffering. Okay, right, what are we having for tea? Oh, we're having cow tongue, beef and fish. Right, to me, that is a clear problem in way of thinking. And Melanie Joy looked at that and come up with the word carnism. She called it an invisible and dominant and violent belief system that allows us to eat meat without even thinking about it. It is just part of people like me do things like this. People like me eat meat because it's always been on my table. And she called it carnism. And when I read the book, I was like, holy shit, this is exactly the same as alcohol. But I need a word. What is the word? What is the word? And for years, I couldn't think of the word. I remember walking around thinking, Melanie Joy, she's so smart. She thought of carnism. And I haven't got a word. And then when I did the Seth Godin course, I realized it just hit me. It was staring at me all the time. The word is alcoholism. The word's already there. Stick an ism on the end of anything. Racism, feminism, nationalism. It's never good, is it? Right? So
So do you feel like, sorry, I don't mean to jump in. This is such an interesting concept because in carnism, it almost seems like the societal acceptance and kind of course, the neatness is something that we need to get away from. So do you feel like anyone that eats meat is a result of carnism, just as anyone who drinks alcohol on any level is subscribing to alcoholism?
I wouldn't say any level. So I'll weave into that in a second, right? So I realize that the word alcoholism is the word I'm looking for. And then I think of some fancy way to rephrase Melanie's work because I don't want to plagiarize the shit out of it. And then I think, oh, bollocks to that. She's nailed it. Alcoholism is an invisible, violent, and dominant belief system. So if you look at carnism a second, we kill over 1 billion animals a week so we can eat them, right? That's pretty violent, right? And if anyone watches Earthlings or any shows like that, the whole industry is incredibly violent. It's dominant because more people in the world eat meat than don't. And it's invisible because kids say they want to be vets because they don't want to harm animals, and then they'll eat a cow that has just been spread for slaughter under terrible, inhumane conditions, particularly in the United States, right? Alcohol is the same. 2.5 million people a year die of alcoholism. Okay? 2.5 million a year. In the latest WHO report that I read in 2015, 55% of the world's population had tasted alcohol. Just squeaks into the dominant kind of area. And why is it invisible? I listened to a podcast today, to give you an example, it was the Yoga Talk show between Lucas Rockwood and some guy talking about evolution. And Lucas said, why is evolutionary theory, whether you believe in God or not, why is it such a taboo subject? And he said it's right up there with abortion, gun control, immigration, and gay rights. Right? Alcohol kills 2.5 million people a year. More than terrorism, homicide, and wars. Yet when we turn on the news, what do we see? We see a van ploughing into people on the side of the road, killing them in the name of God. Why are we seeing that? Why are we being exposed to that? You know?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying. In so many ways, I do believe that the widespread encouragement and acceptance of alcohol use is a tool of keeping people kind of pacified, and a way of controlling people, and a way of keeping us stuck in our problems and not asking questions. And I think that, I don't know, maybe it seems radical, but I really do think that one of the reasons why alcohol is seen as bad, right? It's not heroin, it's not crystal meth, it's just alcohol. It's fun, it's sexy. I think that there's a lot of money to be made in alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of political and corporate power to be gained on our buying into that trap.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
No, I totally agree with you. I mean, I used to spend a lot of time thinking to myself, oh, is there a guy somewhere in an office that runs the world like the architect in the film The Matrix? And if anyone's listening to this, the way that I think about the world and alcoholism is very similar to the Matrix movies, right? Like I'm all in the game of trying to unplug people who want to be unplugged. Like, I'm not ready to go toe to toe and argue with people over my theories. I'm not interested. If you don't believe in it, then I will tell you to go to Hello Sunday Morning, Soberistas, Alcoholics Anonymous, whatever. But if something I say vibes with you, come on in. Like, we'll look after you, we'll take care of you, you know? To answer your question earlier on, it cannot be.
Didn't know what my question was. What was the question?
Carnism is obviously widespread globally.
Yes, yes, yes.
So is alcoholism the same? It can't be, because there will be some indigenous populations that alcohol was introduced where there's no marketing machine. So in those instances, that is not what's getting them hooked, right? So I accept that, but I'm literally talking, and I'm literally talking about my experiences in the UK, and from what I know about in America, and from what comes through to me, New Zealand, Australia, and Canada. That they're the people who come to me the most, right? And in those cultures, without a shadow of a doubt, everywhere you look, alcohol is deemed to be normal and pleasurable. Everywhere you look, and I spoke a little bit earlier about effective altruism, and that I'm into. And effective altruism is a form of philanthropy that uses scientific reason to figure out what is the best bang for your buck if you want to reduce suffering in the world. And it looks at humans and animals just as sentient beings. So they do a lot of work trying to reduce animal suffering as well, because of the effects it has on climate change, and world hunger and health and stuff like that, the bigger issues, And effective altruists believe that smoking is more of a problem than alcohol, because smoking kills 6 million people a year. But here's the difference between smoking and alcohol. We have reached a tipping point, or we're reaching a tipping point, especially in Western culture, where people are being ostracized for smoking. Even the hardened smokers now know that it's really bad for you. There used to be a time when big tobacco could con people that it wasn't causing lung disease, etc. But even the hardened smoker now, he just has to look at his packet, right? And he can see what it's doing to his lungs. He's not smoking thinking he's going to get healthier, right?
They tell you. And, well, oh yeah, so probably where you're from, they have the pictures on the packet.
Yes, yeah, we do. We do.
Croatia, where I am now, that's everywhere. We don't even have that in this state.
Right.
Still, I mean, I remember when I was growing up, you go into a restaurant in New York City and people were smoking.
Yeah.
It was just everywhere. No one. You do not smoke in restaurants. You don't smoke out on the bar deck. You don't smoke even in the street.
Yeah, right. It's changed.
Yeah.
I was in Paris recently, and this woman asked me to. I was working in a cafe. She asked me to move because I wasn't eating. I said, "Well, I got a drink." She's like, "No, I need people to eat." She said, "You could sit over there by the window," but they pulled the window up because it was hot, and then right next to my seat was someone smoking, and to her, we were segregated by some invisible mirror. Now, to me, to even see people smoking in those places is wrong. So my argument is going to be, in effective altruist circles, I'm trying to drive this, is I think that those 6 million deaths will come down. I don't think the 2.5 million ones will go up in alcohol. We're doing a lot of great work, and the internet helps that. But I certainly think smoking will come down below alcohol, and alcohol has far more deeper. It gets its claws into your lifestyle and your relationships in a much more horrendous and insidious way than smoking does.
Yeah, I mean, it becomes skewed to all of our experiences. And actually, like, while we see the trend of smoking going down, I only see the trend of alcohol going up. Like, it's so tightly woven into our university system, right? Like, binge drinking culture starts in college. It's starting even earlier now. In New York City, we have, like, offices have happy hours now. They're bringing booze into the office, and it's just becoming so ingrained in everything that we do. You see it like we were talking about on your show. You see it on wellness websites. Like there's yoga beer tastings. Like Lululemon makes beer. Holly did a really great article about this.
Yeah.
Only because it's more ingrained in our culture, and
They,
not really great.
when Lululemon starts selling beer, you know there's a problem in the world. Look at Lululemon, right? Lululemon, what is that brand all about? That brand, to me, is all about health, cool, freedom, expression. There was a time when women used to walk around with baggy denims because they didn't want to show off their ass, right? Now everyone's walking around with yoga pants and nobody gives a shit, right? Tight fitting, look at my bump clothing, right? And then they go and launch a beer. Now, why are they doing that? I'm sorry, folks. They're doing it because you'll fucking buy it. That
Money.
that so-called healthy yoga, very heavily populated female, the demographic will be probably 20 to 40. That kind of demographic, the alcohol industry knows is ripe. Like, the more and more women are drinking alcohol than ever before, and this is the group that are doing it. So Lululemon are like, yeah, we can make this beer cool, and we can get people to buy it, and people will buy it. Now, going back to what we were talking about earlier on, this is really important. Yeah, me and Allison are not saying there's the architect in an office somewhere convincing everybody to drink alcohol, but the industry and society itself propagates this illusion that we need a drink, that it's normal and pleasurable, which by definition makes alcoholism as a belief system invisible, right? We're perpetuating that. But the biggest problem is, screw the marketers and the advertisers who are spending billions of dollars a year on this. Why? Because it works. The biggest marketers are us, the walking billboards, like the mum and the dad who go to yoga and buy their Lululemon and come by and buy their beer. They're showing their kid that this is okay and acceptable in moderation. Now, there'll be loads of people listening to this who'll be like, oh, it's okay to moderate though, you're going over the top. No, I'm not going over the top. It's because we can moderately drink a poison that people drink a poison. And because we're all on that spectrum, a lot of people can't deal with it. And you only have to work at somewhere like The Truth About Alcohol or the Home Podcast or Hip Sobriety or Hello Sunday Morning to see the scale of this problem. I sat down in a marriage guidance counselling session, a last ditch attempt to save my first marriage. And after talking for a while, the woman turned around, and I thought this was interesting that she said this even, because I wasn't expecting it. And she said to my ex-wife, if you don't stop drinking, your marriage is going to break up. And she said, well, I ain't stopping drinking. Whoa, hang on a minute. 20 plus years of relationship and love put below the importance of a bottle of poison. This is not something that is like a little problem. Leah's not over exaggerating. Someone was on my forum the other day. She's just trying to quit drinking alcohol. She's finding it really difficult. She turns around and says to her partner, it's going to be difficult. He's trying to say to her partner, Lee's asking why I've got beer in the house if I'm trying to quit. Because when I get triggered, like I've just been triggered, there's spirits in the house. So of course I'm increasing my likelihood that I'm going to relapse. Right? But the alcohol's not for me, it's for you. So can you help me out and not have alcohol in the house? Well, the immediate response is, fuck you, Jack. You tell me what to do. I want to drink alcohol. Well, that's going to be a problem. Well, maybe we have to go our separate ways. How do we go from being in love to like 10 minutes later going to be divorced just because we've mentioned this word alcohol? That is how powerful it is. Now, fortunately, the woman I'm talking about later on, the guy realizes that he needs to think a little bit about this, and they're working it out and they're getting a resolution sorted. But that first instinct, and it's always the same, shows you all you need to know about the strength and power that alcohol has on an individual. And that guy, when he said it, didn't even think he had a problem, because of this invisible, violent, dominant belief system.
It's so powerful. And I think that one of the things that has been really interesting for me, especially in doing this show, is kind of witnessing the varying levels of oh, alcohol is only a problem when X, Y, or Z, right? And
Hmm.
if it's not that worst case scenario, usually we catastrophize it and we're like, it's only bad when you're pissing yourself under a bridge, like,
Hmm.
and if it's not that, then you're fine. Um, but there's a huge spectrum of people that have problem relationships with alcohol that have great jobs and great relationships and really don't have many things being messed up as a result of it. And I think that that's a great example of someone that really didn't even realize that he had a problem until a marriage was almost ruined because of the attachment to it. So how do you, in the work that you do, help people that maybe don't realize that it's a problem or maybe have trouble quitting because it's not that bad yet? How do you help them see, like we were talking about earlier, um, all of the ways that alcohol is robbing you rather than giving you something? Because there has to be a way out, right? There has to be a mindset shift.
First of all, the people who come to me are generally at a low ebb. Like they've run out of places to go. So it's unusual for me to be dealing with someone who says, Lee, I moderately drink and it's not really an issue, but I need to quit. Can you help me? Right? That doesn't happen that often. And normally people are coming to me and they're fucked. Right? So it's difficult to answer that question. But how do I help the people who do come to me? I can answer that question.
Yeah.
Is, well, the way I see it, I'm calling it like the trifecta approach, right? So we were talking earlier on in our podcast, weren't we, about this 10, let's have 10 steps or 12 steps or 10 points. Everybody's after that. The way that they've been taught to fix things. Just show me, give me a pill. Like, it's give me a pill, right? But the pill represents itself in do these 10 things and you'll quit alcohol. So what I do is, we've got the Alcohol Addiction podcast, right? So you were my 106th guest. It still dumbfounds me that people listen to episode 1, 2, 3, 4. You probably get this for yours. Yeah. I'm like, holy shit! What didn't? Because I wasn't even talking about these things back then. This is quite interesting. So okay. So we have 100. So every week we've got a podcast going out where we're talking to people like yourself. We recent guest yourself. What are we talking about? Anxiety. We're not even talking about alcohol, right? Time before that, who are we talking to? Karla, Maree. What are we talking about? Nutrition. Not even talking about alcohol, right? Jolene. Not even talking about alcohol. We're talking about nutrition again. I'm going to have a Hollywood screenwriter on. What are we talking about? Stories. I'm not talking about alcohol. Why? Alcohol is easy to quit, folks. It's really simple to quit. The hard part is living beyond that, filling the white space. How do you deal with the fact that nobody wants to be your friend anymore? Nobody wants to go out with you anymore. Everyone feels uncomfortable being around you. Your own husband or your wife don't even like you anymore. They're worried that you're going to leave them and meet someone better than them, and the way that they deal with that is by treating you like shit and making you feel like you're a tosspot. So mainly through passive aggressive means, which will then mean that you will feel really sorry for them and you'll start drinking again, and they're like, boom, I really wanted to support you and I was there for you because I didn't want you to drink, but I'm so fucking glad you're drinking now, right? So the Alcohol Addiction podcast allows people to listen to those stories and to realize that they're not alone, and that this issue that they've got is normal, whatever normal may be. It's normal. It's not like an unusual, it's not a disease, and it's not an unusual problem. It's a very prevalent problem, and everybody's got it, right? And if you go to the pub on a Saturday night and you look around, near enough everybody in there's got a problem, right?
I see a lot of problems when I go to the
Right.
now. Being sober, witnessing what people are like when they're drinking, I'm like, oh, wow.
You see them more when you start drinking, right? So there's a podcast. The podcast also allows me to get on my soapbox like I have right now and deliver my message. Now, one person wrote to me the other day and said, Lee, can you talk about something else because you keep talking about the same stuff? No, because by talking about the same stuff, I'm actually helping you to reprogram yourself, to re-brainwash yourself, to kind of brainwash yourself. By delivering the same message again and again and again, eventually you might say to yourself, okay, there's something in this, I'm going to run with this. So the podcast is really important. The other thing is we have a community forum, Strive Community Forum. Think there are 10 people on there right now, every day checking in. Like it's their diary. Every day they come in there and they say what's on their mind. When they have a trigger about alcohol, they post in a very structured way what happened for that trigger so we can help them out. If they want help and guidance, they ask for help and guidance. When they're sharing their diaries, there's no help and guidance. It's judgment-free zone, right? I have seen, just in a short space of time of getting this Strive Community Forum up and running, some of the most monumental changes. James, just going to pick on James right now. James, when he came to the forum, could not stop drinking alcohol. He had no self-esteem. He was overweight, okay? Didn't know what he was going to do. Every time he had a challenge in front of him, he would come on the forum or he would private message me and say, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Just by listening to the podcast and working on Strive, like, you know, checking in every day, sharing and helping, he has now turned himself into a fitness fanatic. He just went on holiday and saw a volcano in Spain and carried his fucking bike up there. This guy is like a legend right now. And what happens in the middle of it? His wife asks for a divorce. Wow. Well, when my wife divorced me, I relapsed. I had a complete fuck it moment. I was like, well, I gave up drinking alcohol for this woman. Now she's not around. I'm going to drink again. And I know it offers me no value, but I don't give a shit. I'm just going to hurt myself, right? James hasn't done that because he has the support of the community. And he believes in the bigger message of the truth about alcohol and Strive. He has a responsibility. He's created the responsibility. You've created a responsibility by creating your work. I've created a responsibility by creating my work. And the people in Strive are doing exactly the same thing, right? And then third and finally, the foundations of the message that I'm sharing is all coupled together in a 3-month course called The Truth About Alcohol. It's on sale for £400. I know that's a lot of money for some people. Why is it £400? Because it took me fucking ages to do it. It took me ages to do it, and that's the price I think it's worth. And I'm not willing to go down on that. But here's what I am willing to do. I'm willing to go to donors and say to people, do you want to save people's lives? Do you want to give me money so I can give these courses away for free? And a friend of mine just gave me £8,000. I've been able to sell 20 courses. So I've broken it down in groups of 10. First course starts on October 1st to the end of December. These people are going to, and they're all Strive members, current Strive members right now. I'm going to share my foundations through 100 plus online videos, have a weekly session with them, whilst daily sessions in Strive, because it's a mobile app as well, to help them quit alcohol. Karla Maree is going to come on board and she's going to help them with the nutritional angle. And these people are not going to put their hand in their pocket. In January, I'll run a second course with a second amount of money. I hope to get funding to run 2 more courses. I'm hoping by the end of 12 months, I would have helped 40 people and none of them would have had to have paid any money because I've gone and got donors to pay for them. I'd love for that to be the model going forward. It might not work. I don't know. Now, if you want to join the October 1st course and it's full, you have to pay £400. But to me, what did I just say to you about the Seth Godin training course? It changed my life. And I spent £400. I remember when I quit drinking alcohol, I had £30,000 in gambling debt because I was a gambling addict. And I read Jack Canfield's Success Principles and joined his training course. Do you know how much that was? £3,500. I put £3,500 on top of another credit card. So now I had £33,500 in debt. And, right, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, because I was in debt, wanted the same amount of money to help me with my debt. I paid it. And I got very angry that I was paying this amount of money. But I tell you what, I ain't got no debt. And after doing that course with Jack Canfield, I quit my job and I created this business. And I wake up every day knowing that I'm going to go to work speaking to people like you and helping people quit alcohol. And that's beautiful, right?
It's so beautiful because I think that it gives purpose to everything that you've been through. Like, I think for, just thinking about myself and why I do this show, it sucks to suffer and feel like you're just suffering to suffer. But it's really exciting when you can take the wisdom of your experience and everything that you've gone through and kind of shine light on a path. Because like you said, like, it's not like 10 steps to recovery, but it's like, hey, this is what I did and this is what works for me, and here's a really awesome place where people will hold your hands along the path. I
Mm.
love that.
Mm.
It's like, you know, we're strong together, and the more that we talk about our experiences, and the more that we're unafraid to actually um, be vulnerable about our darkness, the more other people can do it. And you know, alcohol and addiction are very dark and lonely topics. And I think that it is up to us, people that have found the way out, to be able to say, I've been through it, and I've realized that it offers me nothing. It actually brings me more suffering to be in addiction and to
Mm.
be using. And the way out is a lot better. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I focus so much on the show about sobriety, is because for people with anxiety, because the cultural push to drink is so strong, when it doesn't work, which it doesn't work for people with anxiety. Very
Mm.
rarely do I meet someone who's like, yeah, alcohol's great for me, and I'm never having panic attacks. It's like the exact opposite.
Yeah.
We think that something is wrong with us. We think that we are broken because everyone's saying drinking is great, and why am I freaking out? So I think it is important to share our stories once we've found a way out, because you know, no one should have to suffer in silence or feel like they're alone in it. So
Mm.
thank you so much for coming on and for sharing your story and for creating these really awesome programs.
My pleasure.
Put all of your links, you guys would want to freak out podcast.com. You can find links to your show and your course and all of that. So
Mm.
thank you so much, because it's really exciting to hear about not only what you're doing, but just the way that you explain it. It just makes so much sense. So, like your alcoholism definition.
Thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure talking to you for the last 2 hours. I really enjoyed it. Thanks.
I know. We like totally hung out. Awesome.
Take care.